Hi everyone, welcome to this session on herbarium procedures. Just ignore the title there because that's for a workshop. So this session's on herbarium procedures and techniques sharing best practice across the globe. I'm Nina Davies, I'm the Herbarium Curation Manager at Kew, and I will be moderating the first part of this session. We'll have 4 talks and then we'll have a small break and then we'll have 6 talks after that. Great. So to start off, we've got this slide. This is ahead of our workshop tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in this room. We'd like, for those of you that work in Herbaria, to add to this Mentimeter, which is a very simple way of gathering your curation issues, day-to-day things that you have to deal with that you're not sure how to solve. Oh, sorry. Should have checked that. Too short. Thank you. Those issues that you deal with in Herbaria, please add to the Mentimeter. We'll slot this in the second half too. Take a picture if you haven't got time to do it now and share it with your colleagues. Great. So first up, we've got Alison Moore, who is a Senior Curator Botanist at the Kew Gardens Herbarium.
Thank you, Nina, and good afternoon. As Nina's mentioned, I'm a curator botanist at Kew, where I've been working for the last 20 years in the geographical team in the Asia team, apart from the year and a half that I spent seconded to the digitisation project. And it's that role, the challenges we faced in it, and some of the solutions we were able to bring to it that I'd like to talk about today. So a brief background to Kew. We operate over 2 sites in the UK, at Kew Gardens in West London and at Wakehurst Place, down in the southeast of England, the home of the Millennium Seed Bank. As you can see, we have quite a diverse range of collections across those sites. And today I'm going to focus on our 7.5 million herbarium specimens. So 2 years ago, Kew started out on its ambitious project to digitise 8.5 million plant and fungal specimens, to make those specimens imaged, freely available online and accessible to anybody who wants to use them. To do this, Kew subcontracted to an external supplier, Max Communications, who work alongside the Kew in-house digitisation team to image those specimens. So the staff from Max Communications work on the high throughput imaging. Those images are then sent abroad and label information is gathered by the transcriptors, so by the transcribers. The Kew in-house staff work on simultaneously gathering data and images on slightly different collections from Max, on perhaps specimens and collections that need slightly more time or slightly more attention. But just to rewind a little, we have many curator botanists at Kew across the geographic teams. The role of curator botanist digitisation was created especially for this role. So it was created to be a bridge or a buffer between the curation team, the researchers and the herbarium users, and the digitisation project. To begin with, there were 3 curator botanists, 4 soon after, and here we are in our very natural and not at all posed photo. So the first big question with a project like this is, where on earth are we going to put everyone? So many of you will be familiar with other big projects around the globe and maybe have seen a conveyor belt system of imaging like this, which is great and it's a really fast throughput of images, but it has a big physical footprint. And this is what our herbarium looks like. So at the bottom left there, you can see these big tables that we have on the ground floor of 2 of our 5 wings. They are movable, so the large conveyor belt system was considered, but in the end, it was decided what was more practical for Kew was to go with smaller, more portable imaging stations that we could fit inside those bays. And this has changed the look of Kew Herbarium somewhat. So we've gone from a herbarium that looks like this, and it currently, as we speak, looks a lot like this. So those red arrows indicate where our portable digitisation stations are. And in between, you can see the standing bays, the desks with microscopes, access to computers where we can still access the collections. Because Kew hasn't stopped the normal functioning of the herbarium for this project. Visitors are still coming in, researchers still need to get to their collections, we're still sampling, sending out loans, doing inquiries, requests, all the normal things that happen in herbaria. So this desk marked up in blue is a really important one, and we've tried to keep that in wings where all the digitisation is, and that's for the curator botanist to sit. Senior curator botanists, I'm just going to call them SCBs from now on because it is a bit of a mouthful. But that's where they sit, and then they're on hand to answer queries and deal with any problems that arise. And the senior curator botanists in that bay have become very good at ball juggling, at multitasking, at fitting everyone in and trying to keep everyone happy. So where do we start? Training. So bearing in mind that many of the staff that came on board were highly trained imagers who were very good at imaging, but had perhaps never been in a herbarium before and had never seen a herbarium specimen. So I see there are people in this room that work in a herbarium, because you will all know exactly what a standard herbarium specimen looks like, won't you? Because it always has a collector name and a collector number, doesn't it? And it always has a location, and it always has a date, and it definitely always has an identification in Latin. No. So herbarium specimens, they're non-standard. But with a bit of experience in curation, you can sort out the riddles, you can sort out the puzzles. We needed a way to teach that to people who weren't that familiar. So we started producing crib sheets like the anatomy of a herbarium specimen here, and some information on what they would find on a label and how to interpret that. So over the next few slides, I'm going to show you lots of information, lots of very small documents. I don't mean for you to read them, they're just more of an example of the protocols that we came up with. Some of our specimens have been around for nearly 200 years. We would quite like them to be around for another 200. So herbarium specimen handling was paramount to our initial training. And we did this in the form of a written protocol, a pictorial protocol, and physical, practical training sessions. Barcodes. Every single specimen, every individual collection was going to need a barcode in order for it to have a digital record. So we came up with an order of priority. As you know, specimens can be a bit messy. So if possible, put it at number 1. If not, put it at number 2. And as one of our SCBs discovered during a training program, much more impactful with a modified Macarena, to drive home the point. For any of you that don't know a Macarena, don't worry about it. It's probably showing my age there. But it's not only one barcode we sometimes need on a specimen. There are specimens with multiple collections on them, multiple dates, multiple determinations, things that have been stuck together in the past, cut out from other sheets. So again, we produced lots of crib sheets, lots of information sheets, and again, the SCBs were on hand to try and sort out any problems that arose. And this is just an example of why we asked our in-house team, who have a little bit more experience and a little bit more time to deal with things like the orchids. This lovely specimen has 27 individual barcodes necessary on it. And you'll see we also provided tiny barcodes for specimens like this to be able to fit them all on in a nice pattern. Spreadsheets. So we were up and running, but we had to know where we were going next and where we were doing and how everyone was doing, and this came down to spreadsheets, spreadsheets, spreadsheets. So first of all, we mapped. We mapped every compactor and every box, every wing, every bay, every cupboard. Once we'd started, we needed the progress of our digitizers, how they went through the wings, how the QA, the quality assurance team, were coming along behind them. We had spot checking spreadsheets. We had training spreadsheets, repairs and remounts spreadsheets. In fact, it got to the stage where the only thing we could do was have a spreadsheet of spreadsheets to work out where all the spreadsheets were. And so we're running along nicely, and then we come across the things that I'm sure all of you find in your herbarium from time to time, and you think, what on earth is that? So one of our digitizers was digitizing in the grasses and came across this. Now, we'd covered this in training, this largely out-of-date curatorial practice of wrapping specimens in plastic to stop the small bits escaping. So he was attempting to just pull gently a corner up and put the barcode under, as he'd been trained, when he found that this was the next specimen. So he called one of us over and we scratched our heads for a while. Had it been stolen? Had pests eaten it entirely and left just the mounting strips? Well, at peeking at the specimen on the left, we found this stuck to the bottom of it. This is the specimen on the right that's been transferred by static electricity from the plastic bag to underneath the specimen on the left. And then there was this lovely piece of curation. I really hope this was a visitor and not a curator. Somebody found a stem that was and thought, well, I'll just fix it now. What's in my pocket? It's a stamp. It's not even a first-class stamp. And obviously these are sheets no curator wants to see. So we came across stuff like this. Thankfully, our records indicated to us that this wasn't a pest infestation. There was no sign of live pests. This was something that had happened in the past, but had just never been cleaned. So we could assuredly say, carry on, we don't need to freeze and carry out a de-infestation. The specimens on the right indicate specimens with mould. And we soon learned to distinguish between the one on the far right is a musa, a banana that we are guaranteed by the mycologists at Kew was picked up in the field, that piece of mould. The one just in the middle there probably was due to bad drying techniques. So we needed the digitizers to know what they were looking at. So we produced pest sheets of exactly what to expect and what they would expect to see. And then we could answer questions when we were called in a hurry to desks with questions like, do spiders eat specimens? We could assure them that they don't need to look out for spiders. So we would expect in a collection of our size to find a lot of stuff that perhaps needs repair or remount. We had to decide quite what our limit was. We couldn't let really badly damaged sheets back into the collection. We could let a little bit of damage slide. So we created this protocol for repairs and remounts, making sure that it was noted in the collections. We knew where to put it back, we knew where it had gone, and it was marked on a spreadsheet. Again, this was fed back into our training program. We kept training. Gradually, these exceptions were less and less. The photos, illustrations, capsules only, multiple sheet specimens, all the things that you come across in Herbaria were fed back into the exceptions protocol, which was probably our largest growing, constantly growing protocol. And then we let the other Herbarium users know by a series of magnets, lots of emails, encouraging them to come and talk to us if they have specimens out or would like to put specimens back, and knowing what to do with them. And finally, we're about 3.5 million this slide was written 2 weeks ago. There's probably digitization people in the room that will tell me that these figures are out of date. But we're about 3.5 million collections digitized, 3 million on GBIF and 2 million in our own new data portal. And I'll leave you with two of my favorite pictures from the project. This is Lewis, and this is the face of a man who's just digitized the very last of the legume collection. And this is a xanthosoma, and hats off to the curator or the mounter who mounted this clearly with a smile on their face. Thank you for listening. Thanks to my fellow curator botanist, Bentham Moxham Trust, for bringing me here. If you want any more information on the digitisation project, please follow the QR code. And if you're around and would like to come to the workshop tomorrow, it's in this room at 9.
Thank you, Alison. So we've got a little bit of time for 1 or 2 questions. Has anyone got questions?
So when you say fully digitized, are you talking about transcribing everything on the sheet, just an image and a skeletal record? What are you referring to?
Fully transcribed as to all the parts of that process, the imaging, the transcription, and then the upload.
Like all of the data on the label?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not all the data.
Oh, okay.
Somebody from Max Communications later, or one of the other talks, may tell you exactly what information we have, but there's certainly geographical identification, collector information. It hasn't got the precise geographical details, the total description.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions?
A very interesting presentation. I just want to find out about if the specimen is infested, do you still digitize it? I mean, if it's you don't have any leaves or branches on it?
We take it out of the collection, the imaging run, put it through the freezers, do any remedial work that needs done on it, and then cut it back into the imaging run, and it will get digitized at the end when it's been treated.
Okay. Even though there's no leaves or whatever?
Oh, you mean it's totally disappeared?
Yeah.
Yes, I think we probably would, just to have a digital record of that collector name and number, even though it's not much use.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. Right. Next up, we've got Atsuko Takano, Herbarium Curator at the Museum and Human Activities Hyogo and Professor at the Institute of Natural and Environmental Sciences, University of Hyogo.
Thank you for introducing me. Hi, this is Atsuko Takano from University of Hyogo and Museum of Nature and Human Activities Hyogo. Today, I want to share with our experience with collection moving with classification change from Angular to APG. Let me briefly introduce our collections. And after 30 years from establishment, we have more than 2 million specimens, including 1.2 million specimens of insect and 600,000 herbarium specimens and 140,000 fossils and minerals and so on. And this is our previous herbarium storage room as of year 2011. And you can see so many cardboard boxes above the shelves. And at that time, our herbarium was almost full. Then year 2012, we received SHO collections, which consist of 250,000 specimens. It's a huge amount of collections, large collections. And at that time, our herbarium is almost full. So we rented a warehouse and put Shoei collections in there. Then, however, we have to move them to our museum, as the warehouse could no longer be rented in 2016. Then we put Shoei collections, as many as possible, in the shelves, and along the shelves and on the shelves. They are almost completely full, but the rest, we have to. The remaining specimen boxes were placed in sealable bags and deflated and stacked into 6 layers and placed outside in the corridor. Then after more than 10 years lobbying activities, a new storage building plan was approved in 2019. Then we started to plan new herbarium building, and at the same time, we start to plan moving and decided to change classification system from Angular to APG. So at first, we need to know the quantity of each genus. Then we measured the thickness of all genus covers with specimens and recorded them. And this is a row, and this is a family name under APG system, and this is our collections, and this column shows the Shoei collections. Then we sum up and count how many shelves we need to each family. Then at that time, about 1,500 specimen boxes are left, but we opened all the specimen boxes and measure them, calculate them, and when we returned specimens back to boxes, we changed specimen arrangement following APG system. Then, in parallel with the project to measure the thickness of specimens, I was involved in the design of new herbarium building. It took 30 years to build a new herbarium building, so I wanted to make the new herbarium that could hold specimen at least 30 years, another one. Then the herbarium consists of 2 rooms. Then I planned it as many specimen shelves as possible, and minimum specimen examining corner, 1 for each room, and as book storages. Then we put labels on each specimen box after counting and measuring, then genus name, family name, and the room number and the area in the new herbarium. Then at that time, during the COVID-19 pandemic, so Hyogo Prefecture decided to run emergency employment creation project. So we could hire 10 persons in JPY 2020 and 5 persons to JPY 2022. Then we could ask them to help our specimen moving project. That greatly helps us, luckily. And normally we have 2 curators and also 2 mounters. We are 4 members normally. So and if it's a normal time, it's very, very hard task for us to do. Then in December 2021, we started to specimen moving. And since specimen boxes have been put in herbarium as many as possible, so there are no working space. So we put labels on them, then wrote destination of the new herbarium, and moved them to store in a hall attached to our museum in December 2021. Then after saving space, working spaces, the specimen box had been, the specimen in the shelf. We started to put specimens in shelves, 2 boxes. So prepare for the labels for the specimen and put them into the boxes and put labels, packed, and move to the hall. Then make the specimen shelves empty. Then empty specimen shelves were moved to the new herbarium first. Then March 2022, after moving specimen shelves, then there is a huge area, vacant area in the old storage room. And after we put the specimen boxes from the hall back to the old storage, and for waiting until new herbarium is ready to store specimens. Then, when the concrete building was built, they released several chemical substances which harmful to specimens. So we have to wait to decrease such kind of chemical substances to a certain degree of concentration. So to decrease ammonia concentration for representative, we use a ventilation system for nitrogen fire extinguish system for almost every day to change the air to a fresh one. Then we measure the ammonia concentration once a month, and waiting for the value became lower than 22 microgram per cubic meter. That's criteria for museum storage. That was November 2022. So we decided to move specimens in January 2023. Then this is before moving and after moving. There were over 4,000 specimen boxes are there. Then in January 2023, a moving company moved specimen boxes into the new herbarium storage building. Then boxes are arranged in the number, in order as labels indicated, and we opened every specimen box on the ground floor like this. And this is a scene to arrange specimen accordingly, alphabetically. Then we have to combine the HYO specimens and the Shoei collections here, then back them into the boxes and brought up into the new herbarium at the second floor. Then boxes were arranged in order. Our new herbarium consists of 2 rooms, so we made 2 teams, or 3 to 4 persons to sort and shelving specimens. The table shows here is a shift table showing when and who will play what role. 1 or 2 persons to open specimen boxes, combine Shoei and Hyogo specimen and arrange alphabetically, put them into boxes again. Then 1 person arranged the boxes into the second floor. Then a person opened the box and put specimen into shelves. Then it took 6 days to finish all specimens put into shelves. Then this is a new HYO herbarium. Then acknowledgement goes to late Mr. Naruhisa Matsuoka, who headed the specimen measuring project and play a major role for moving, but he suddenly passed away at the end of June. Then, so yeah, I was very grateful to him. And also, thanks goes to all Hyogo Museum members who helped us specimen moving. That's all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Atsuko. Any questions? I think we've got a little bit of time. I have a quick question for you, which is how did you manage to keep up any access of the collections during the move to visitors, and how did you facilitate research during that time?
We closed our herbarium temporarily at the end of November 2021 until March 2022, because all the specimens are packed into boxes.
Yeah. But did you find a large number of researchers wanting to come and view the collections once you moved?
Our museum is very local, so 3 persons asked us to just examine, but I refused it.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we've got 5 minutes, so if anyone's got any questions, should we wait for a couple of minutes before we start the next one? Yeah? Yeah. We can carry on?
Yeah, we're going to be ahead of schedule then. Someone's in the timer because it wasn't working.
Okay, working.
Not working.
5分ね。これ5分。
Well, 3 minutes now.
Sorry for the confusion. We finished a bit earlier, so we're just trying to work out if we're going to hold off and wait. Any questions while we're waiting?
Yeah, question for Dr. Takano. You're mentioning about the ammonia concentration. Is that part of the? You use ammonia. Is it as a fumigant for the pest control, or what's the purpose of the ammonia?
We measured ammonia concentration. It's as a representative of the harmful chemical substances that released from the newly built concrete building. Released usually when dry. Until the building was completely dried up, they released several chemical substances, which harmful for specimens. So our government has decided the criteria to keep specimens safe, the guidelines. So we waiting for the following guidelines, waiting for the ammonia concentration was become lower than the criteria. So that's what the reason.
Thank you. Any other questions? Everyone's eager for the next one. Okay, we're ready to switch over. So now we have Kazumi Fujikawa from the Makino Botanic Garden Herbarium.
あれ Okay. Thank you, Nina. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kazumi Fujikawa. I'm in charge of the Makino Botanical Garden, Department of Botany in Japan. Today, I'm going to make a few remarks concerning our herbarium and our outreach program. Firstly, let me show you the brief information of our botanical garden and the herbarium. The Makino Botanical Garden was established on Mount Godai-san in Kochi City in 1958, spanning about 8 hectares of undulating terrain. This garden showcases over 3,000 species of wild and cultivated plants. In 1999, the Botanical Garden expanded its premises and established the Makino Museum, Research and Administration Building as a center for plant research, education, and public outreach. Our herbarium was founded in 2000 and just 24 years passed, with a total of 345,000 specimens. The scope of the collection is mainly in Asia, but with special strengths in Kochi Prefecture and Myanmar, and we have many valuable collections. There are two main initiatives in MBK Herbarium. One is research, and the other is an education and outreach. As mandatory research, we have projects of Flora of Myanmar and Flora of Kochi. In terms of education and extension activities, we are engaged in these various activities in disseminate plant knowledge, understand diversity, and contribute to the local society. I would like to share with you some of our specific activities in Myanmar. MBK launched a joint research project with Forest Department, Myanmar in 2000. As the flowchart shows, this floristic research has been contributing to the conservation of plant diversity and also enhancing regional development. Our major activities are the field surveys and identification to the flora of Myanmar with capacity buildings for staff members of Forest Department and ethnobotanical survey to support local community development and conservation of plant resources. Now for the main topics. What's MBK's outreach program? We have a lot of programs. For example, lectures, herbarium tour to public, workshops, and so on, in order to familiarize the public with the role and significance of the herbarium. We also hold special exhibitions on specimens and sometimes demonstrate how specimens are prepared. One of the features of MBK Herbarium is that we have many volunteers. Currently, over 300 volunteers have been working with us to develop our research. They mainly collected specimens in the field, conduct monitoring survey of endangered species, and control activities for designated invasive alien species in Kochi Prefecture. While most of the volunteers in the herbarium are usually involved in curatorial work in the herbarium, such as mounting specimens, entering database, scanning specimens, etc. Most of MBK volunteers are also involved in field activities. Therefore, we focused on training people who can conduct field activities. Furthermore, to encourage more people to participate, we conduct a citizen participatory survey every 5 years. It's a dandelion survey. This survey began in the 1970s as a method to investigate the state of the environment. By focusing on the differences in habitats between the native dandelions and foreign, that is, alien dandelions, the reason why we had chosen dandelion as environmental indicators include their ability to accurately reflect the state of the environment and their familiarity to everyone. Objectives of this project are shown here on this slide. This survey is very simple. You just access to the MBK website and download the survey form. And then you go out to somewhere on a sunny day. You could easily find a dandelion everywhere. When you find a dandelion, you must collect the flower and the fruit and fill up the survey form and send the form with the flower and fruit to the MBK. That's all. It is necessary to identify the samples where it's a native or alien species when you collect. But identification is also an easy work if you follow this chart. Please look at this bar chart. According to this year's survey, total of 690 participants collected 4,920 samples. Comparing the previous survey, the largest number of respondents participated in the survey in this year. Please look at the pie chart. A high percentage of student participants was indicated. Various factors can be considered for the high percentage of student participants. We heard that in some schools, teachers had this dandelion survey as homework during long spring holidays. Anyway, I think it is important to have a simple survey program as an opportunity to learn about the nature around us. This figure shows the localities map collected dandelions by participants in 2024 survey. Uncollected points, white one, show forested areas because dandelions seldom grow in the forested area, while the points, yellow points, show around the town and the city and in line alongside main roads. This map shows ratio of the dandelion species between native and alien species of previous surveys in 2015 and 2020, called dandelion map. Although not yet fully analyzed in this time, we plan to examine the ratio of native to alien species at each sampled site, a mesh, to analyze the degree of naturalness of this area. This dandelion map is very useful as basic data for environmental conservation in Kochi Prefecture. The dandelion map would be drawn only when participants have collected dandelion. The dandelions collected by the participants provide clue to environmental changes. Their collaboration is valued to environmental conservation. This seemed to motivate the participants. As a mechanism to motivate those who participated in the survey to want to do more research, the results are published on the web and posted on the internet to return the results promptly. Before closing, I would like to summarize the point of my presentation and make some suggestions. Large-scale and continuously surveys enable us to recognize changes in the natural environment and understand regional habitat characteristics. As a citizen participation survey, the method has been established, making it possible to utilize dandelion survey or environmental education. The survey targets familiar plants and the method is simple, so more citizens are encouraged to pay attention to the natural environment. We experienced participation to the project at school level, providing opportunities to many students at school in environmental education. Hands-on observation of plants and nature in the field is essential experience for citizens and students. Botanists, further commitment must be required in this respect. That's all for my presentation. I would like to thank you all for your attention. Thank you very much.
We have got time for questions. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Kazumi. I was interested to know about the volunteers that you have. Who are they, and do they go on and follow up careers, perhaps in botany or curation, as a result of volunteering at the herbarium?
Yes, we have several kinds of the volunteers help. So one is a field work. There are lots of 300 volunteers, and also the herbarium, curatorial work. Also a few, volunteer staff we have. Every volunteer, we give the training to the volunteers about the activities.
So I was just wondering, are they retired people, or are they elderly citizens, local people, the volunteers? Yeah, okay.
Yes, after the retirement, 60s, that's
I
a
see.
very young, very
Yeah.
active, younger.
We have an example. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No?
Thank you, Fujikawa-san. Personally, I'm engaged in conservation or environmental NGO in Japan, Earthwatch Japan. They have an office in Oxford as well. And I would add her presentation that this dandelion survey is now, we are discussing with MBK, between MBK and Earthwatch, that to carry on to seek some joint project for future. Now, Fujikawa-san's MBK project is mainly located only in Kochi Prefecture, but there are lots of entities, doing a survey for dandelions, throughout Japan. So Earthwatch and Fujikawa-san met several months ago to seek some possible, joint survey between us. That's just for your information. Thank you.
Thank you, Kazumi. Okay, now it's my turn. Okay, hi everyone again. Can we start, Claire? Are we good? Thank you, Timer. Okay. So I am Nina Davies, as I've already introduced myself already. I will be talking to you about recurating herbarium collections post-digitization and how we've been using the Spnhc collections as a case study. So I'm going to start by telling you what a recuration is at Kew, and then I'm going to go through why we are recording and updating curation procedures in the herbarium, how we have completed a case study to recurate the collections post-digitisation, and what we have learnt so far, including the considerations to help us develop a new procedure for this going forwards. What do I mean by recuration? Simply put, this is where we use the information from publications to update the collections. Often these are small taxonomic changes, but when they are big, like this new linear sequence for the Spnhc, whether it affects the entire collections for a family, consideration is needed for how to tackle a large reorganisation of those specimens. We're in the process of recording herbarium procedures, and we've been interested in this since working on the new herbarium handbook, where we were looking at techniques from across the world and thinking specifically what we do about Kew, and realizing that some of the procedures we had were out of date and some we just don't have anything for, or are the practical skills passed on from person to person but not recorded anywhere. Yes, so here I am focusing on recurations, as this has been recently impacted by these three things. So firstly, a new integrated collections management system. This was a complete change from the old herbarium catalogue system we were used to, a steep learning curve in how to manage and update herbarium specimen data, and ensuring this doesn't diverge from the physical specimens, as these get updated with new determinations from researchers, returned loans, and taxonomic changes in publications. With mass digitisation rapidly moving through the herbarium, as you've already heard already, this data is going into this new, as I will now call it, ICMS, it's much easier to say, and creating a second collection to curate the digital collections. Therefore, any updates to the physical specimens needs to also be made and updated in the integrated ICMS. I said I'd say that ICMS to not integrated yet, to ensure the physical and digital collections don't diverge. Additionally, and supporting the update of the procedures, we are aligning these with the UK standard for museums with support from the registrar, as the herbarium is a part of the application for museum accreditation. And as you can see, it's the perfect time to be thinking about updating and recording our curation procedures with all of these changes. Oh, I'm going backwards. Whoops. Before mass digitisation, and when only some of the collections were digitised, such as types, curators would use publications to guide a recuration task, looking for name changes and specimens which are cited as being at Kew. Specimens would be removed from the collections, new determinations would be added to cited specimens, species and genus covers would be updated with the name changes and specimens rearranged. Any specimens already barcoded from previous digitisation projects would be updated on the Kew Herbarium catalogue, but this was only ever a few specimens. Recurations were fitted in where they could be, with little consideration for time, unless it was a large recuration, as you don't really know how long a recuration is going to take or the surprises you'll find whilst going through the collections. So mass digitisation of the collection started in 2022, and by early 2023, the numbers of digital specimen records had significantly increased. At this point, we realised we needed a new procedure to work out how to manage both updating the digital and the physical specimens. Spnhc was one of the first families to be digitised at Kew, and we felt supported by resident Spnhc researchers to guide us with the taxonomic changes, and who were keen to see these collections updated. This was considered to be a large recuration, as we have over 160,000 Spnhc specimens with taxonomic changes at the generic level. We decided for this to recruit a 12-month intern as a case study to see how we could manage recurations post-digitisation, but also to be able to have one person to focus on this, to see how long the project takes, and to estimate how to judge future recuration time, and to help us develop a new recuration procedure. Oh, I'm going backwards again. Whoops, sorry. In September 2023, Lily Cranham started as our 12-month intern. She worked with curators, researchers, and the digitisation team. As recuration is a complicated task, as we all know, we dedicated time in the first 2 months to training Lily in curation and digitisation skills. It was important to have a timetable initially to map out activities. The recuration started with mapping the collections, looking at where each of the genera started and where they ended in the collections. At the beginning, it was hard to estimate how long this project would take, but at the 6-month mark of her 12-month internship, we realized this was a good case study, as Lily had completed the recuration at the generic level. Oops. From this, Lily has gathered a list of considerations before starting a recuration based on her observations during this internship. For example, have you got the up-to-date literature? Has there been sufficient time for the publication to settle? Is this a priority? And this obviously depends on the herbarium specialism or the specialist working with the collections. How large is the job and how many changes are required? How many specimens need updating? Can this be split up into smaller jobs? Will each specimen need to be updated in the collections management system? Will determination slips need to be added to every specimen? So that's a lot of considerations. So we knew the biggest challenge out of all of this in this project would be navigating how to update the digital collections in the new ICMS without it taking too much time. In the second half of the project, some of these digital updates were time-consuming, so we paused this to prioritize the physical updates to ensure that we completed this task. However, we did catch up in the end, and instead of putting individual updates into the system, we ended up with a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet of bulk updates. But eventually, we will be able to put this into the new system. So even if we haven't got the functionality currently, it's good to have the learning to know how long it can take to put individual specimens in. This project was well timed, as we're now at the point where we need to update collections regularly in ICMS due to lots of visitors updating the collections. Not only is this project useful for recuration projects, but for bulk determination updates in general. And sometimes at Kew we get researchers and visitors who might leave 10 boxes of updates for a visitor. And in a recent example, we had one of the curators had 8 boxes, and each box was taking her 3 hours to update the collections. So that's a long time. Right. This case study was a great project, as now I'm considering large recurations, and we haven't got all the data yet. But we can use this as a standard for working out the details before starting the project. It will help us to make the curation task a bit more measurable, to plan the large recurations and use these for summer and year-long internships to train staff. And when looking back about how we recurated collections before digitisation, you can see we have now added in more consideration before, as this is important, especially when we find ourselves stretched in curation jobs. And with the addition of the digital collection to manage, our time is valuable. Updating the digital collections does take time. Having this consideration in advance of a recuration project is important to help us prioritise curation projects. With the collections digitised, it would be great to think about how we can use digital collections information to guide future recurations. Just knowing how many specimens there are for a family can help to plan activities, like knowing there's 160,000 Cyperaceae specimens. Right, I feel like I rattled through that, but a huge thank you to everyone involved in the project, especially Lily Cranham. And training her in curation techniques was brilliant, because now she is moving on to another tricky curation project at Kew, and we've managed to get her to stay on a bit longer. So thank you for listening, and I have plugged the workshop again, because we'd love you all to come along and share your curation issues and try and work through some of these tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Nina. We've got a bit of time for any questions. Oh, good.
So with your collections digitized and the data available online, are you ever getting updates sent remotely, and how do you handle or prioritize those?
Now, this is a really good question because this is something we're discussing, and we've got two people in the room that we've been discussing this with. I think they're sitting together, in fact, Ashley and Alan. We're not quite sure, I think, how we navigate this. When we had the Herbarium catalogue, I think we were getting determination updates via email, and we expect there to be a flood of information coming in now. It feels like opening up the collections online is going to be determination update madness. We're going to get more and more. So, Ashley or Alan, do you have anything to add to that about what we might do and how we manage this? Microphone.
So, stage 1, panic. Stage 2, think. I think, I honestly don't know, but I don't think we should lose the information. And I'm not sure how we balance actually doing it and keep the information if we don't do it. And I think that's going to be part of the challenge. But the honest answer is we're not sure yet.
Nikki's got her hand up. I think she wanted to add.
Thanks. I wondered if there's scope to add a feed of publications to the catalogue so that you at least know kind of what's out there, what's yet still to be done. Has anyone done anything like that?
Not. It's going back and forth. You can have one each.
On our ICMS, you can see we're working it out as we speak, actually. On our ICMS, there is a facility to link a publication to the record. And I guess you could easily also link to a DOI, or even to, because some of those will come in as grey, they'll come in as Excel spreadsheets or something like that, and link and send to us kind of archive document management system. I'll link to that in the record and then make a decision when to do it. It's just like, how do you decide whether to action it or not?
Yeah, I don't want to dominate your time here, but I just wondered if maybe at a higher level than that, you could just say that we know we've got family X at Q, we know that this big publication was published on that, we're yet to do it. So at least it's a visible task.
Yeah, maybe this is a subject for the workshop tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Add it to the Mentimeter. There was, Robin, did you have your hand up? Yeah.
Hey, that was great. It's something we're about to, we need to tackle as well at Edinburgh with our digitisers going through. I think we're going to be using our taxon tree. We've not been doing a lot of the name curation ahead of digitisation. We're capturing what we currently have. So I think for us, when we're doing it, we'll be partly using the names we've got, especially our digitisers. If they find non-manuscript names or something like that, we can annotate the taxon record to say, actually, this name isn't in any literature, so we can work out where we're targeting. And I wondered, with your senior curator botanist going through first, have you done that sort of taxonomic update ahead of when you're then doing this larger revision, or are you kind of also looking at what names you've got and going, oh no, none of these are, we can use the sort of quality of names as a guide to, we need to be targeting this family, we need to target that family.
It's certainly an interesting thing we can do. Alison, did you want to say anything about that? No. Put her on the spot.
I think before digitisation, there wasn't any particular plan. It was more resources and time. So if there was a big recuration to be done and we were mapped the wing and found that it needed to be done, it was a case of what curators are around, are they available to work on this, can we get it done? Yeah. If not, it was giving Frank over their headaches by saying, no, we know this isn't the up-to-date name, could you please put it back in the system, and this is what it will be logged out and we will flag it to do later. So there wasn't any scientific approach, it was resources and time and access.
Okay.
Just wondering if there's any questions online, but I don't think so. Any more in the room? Oh, Javita.
Is it time?
Hi. Hi, very good talk. Good to see all your workflow. My question is, as we are doing similar work at the museum, our problem was, in order to digitize them, we needed to have the names on the system. So I guess for you might be easier because you might have already some of the names there. And in relation to what have been raised here, that those names that the specimens are filed as that are not published, I wonder how you were dealing with this, because there I just accept it as it is because we were not taxonomists or expertise on that group. So those were like names without authorship because they have been unpublished, but the collections were curated as it is, and it was sometimes quite a big number of shelves. So how you were doing with the names then? You were adding, or you add before, or you download the list?
With digitization, so one of the important things was to make sure that the species, genus and species covers had the information as that was being transcribed. But you can also, in our ICMS, you can put in the storage name, or you can put in a verbatim name, so if it's not yet published, and so you have the option to do that. I'm looking at Ellie, because she's right there, but I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Just briefly, because we're about to go for a break.
We've got to finish up.
I don't know, I would say there's the storage name, which, as you say, is a verbatim field, so you can put anything in there. And then you also have the most recent identification. And if you have that, if it's not already in the system, you can do it to the lowest level that is within the system, so you'd do genus. And then within another field, within that identification record, you would also have a verbatim, and you could add in whatever that name is that isn't actually on the system. And then you can put the reason as it's not currently in WCBP or whatever. And then when that does get in, I'm assuming that then updates it. I mean, we're not going to pass it on again, but so that then that would become the most recent identification.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Break time. Please come back.